That's where we are at. There's another person, viewers, who had a ringside view of this entire case, perhaps the most informed view. His name is RK Raghavan. He was the former CBI director appointed by the Supreme Court to head the SIT into this particular case and others. He also stands vindicated because many people said, like Tehseen Poonawalla began this show by saying, oh, he was rewarded, as if he knew that Modi would be Prime Minister, as if he knew that at one day he was going to be made some envoy to some small republic somewhere. Viewers, he now spoke to me and he says a few things that will also shock you. Listen in. RK Raghavan speaks to Times Now, speaks to me. Let's go straight across to him. Mr. Raghavan, thank you for speaking to Times Now. The Supreme Court has validated the findings of the SIT team that was led by you to look into this entire matter, especially the alleged role of Narendra Modi. And the Supreme Court, after looking into your report, has been very scathing in its criticism of your detractors who cast an aspersion on your integrity. How do you respond to today's judgment?
Yeah, without being immodest, I was expecting this kind of a ruling. I'm quite satisfied that the Supreme Court went into the evidence that I proffered before the court and found it very convincing and credible, and also found out how certain elements were trying to pull me down, attack me personally, and also because they possibly had a political agenda. So we did not yield to any of those pressures. I'm happy. I don't take credit to myself. I had a wonderful team led by Ashok Malhotra and several others. They stood by me like a rock, and they went into the nitty-gritty, clinically analyzed whatever evidence that could come in, and that's why we produced the report, and we are happy that the highest court of the land upheld our stand.
Well, that's very creditable to be also complimenting your colleagues, and you clearly are feeling vindicated. Mr. Raghavan, do you believe then, therefore, that there was a motivated lobby of individuals and politicians who were seeking to poke holes into your investigation? The Supreme Court refers to them as, and I quote the Supreme Court, protagonists of quest for justice sitting in air-conditioned offices. Why do you think the Supreme Court called them protagonists of quest for justice sitting in air-conditioned offices? People who were devious by design.
Yeah, I'm not used to naming names. I knew who they were. And in my report, possibly, I did mention a few of them who are trying to pull me down all the time, casting motives, attributing all kinds of things, including a man who was guiding them from Delhi and who almost became a judge of the Supreme Court. Fortunately, the government woke up and the Supreme Court woke up and ensured that this man did not become a judge of the Supreme Court.
Well, so you're alluding to a judge of the Supreme Court who was guiding this entire set of conspirators. Loose term, obviously, is Lutyens' lobby. Now, sir, would you like to name? I'm asking you, would you like to name these persons who are targeting you? You mentioned a few in your book, but not in such clear terms. Who at the center? Who was this judge, sir?
No, particularly the gentleman. I am at the evening of my life, probably even twilight of my life. So I don't want to go to court, and this man can do me a lot of harm, and he can throw mud at me. Unfortunately, he's person whom I had known earlier very well, and still he chose to spread cannots about me. It was very painful, but I didn't mind because there is not a grain of truth in what he said and about me and my connection to Mr. Modi.
Well, that is scandalous. That is scandalous. And you obviously, sir, now want to leave this entire episode behind you. But the Supreme Court said that the petitioner, Zakia Jafri, was in a sense dictated to. Now, let me just quote the Supreme Court. Obviously, at the dictation of someone is the Supreme Court's reference to Zakia Jafri's petition. Who do you think the court is alluding to, sir?
No, those who were in power at the center in those days. I've mentioned this clearly in my autobiography, The Road Well Traveled, that was released a couple of years ago. That in that I had mentioned a few personalities. I don't know whether I named, my memory may trip me off, but I've clearly said those who are in Delhi, they are trying to malign me to make sure that I didn't get at the truth. And so this is painful, but in retrospect I'm happy that I stood up to the challenge and I did not wilt. I must also state here that nobody dared to approach me directly to do this or that. I was left absolutely alone, severely alone, to do what I wanted and state what was revealed in my investigation.
But there was pressure. There was pressure to fix Narendra Modi. Sensational revelations by RK Raghavan this evening. Obviously, stands vindicated by the court. Now, Mr. Raghavan, the likes of RB Srikumar, Sanjeev Bhatt, both former police officers, said that Modi held a meeting. They said Modi held a meeting telling officials to allow rioters to vent their anger. Now, I want to ask you, why do you think that you became convinced of Modi's innocence in these riots and felt that these charges were false? And why do you think that this wasn't also accepted by the court?
No, I'll tell you. That's something concrete about that significant meeting. We checked, we examined everyone who was known to have been present. There are some people, I mean, there was imagination is running right, so and so was present, so and so did this and all that. We examined, everyone was present at that said meeting, and nobody confirmed that Mr. Modi ever said this or that. So when I had such evidence, could I have taken Mr. Modi to court? That would have been falsehood, and egg would have been on my face. And so late in my career, and after having been chosen by no less than the Supreme Court of India, could I have padded up evidence? So the evidence we picked up clearly was that nothing of that kind was said by Mr. Modi, and so it's not a question of benefit or doubt. Clearly, no one ever told us that Mr. Modi said this or that. So when that is the case, I was very clear. Mind you, I've never tense. I was very relaxed, and then, I mean, it may not be very appropriate to say this at the time. I used to go to the temple near the SIT office in the cantonment. There is a Lord Hanuman temple. Every Tuesday I used to go there and pray for courage and strength, and Lord Hanuman gave me this. And it may be, this reference to Lord Hanuman may, some people may consider it inappropriate, but I am bold. I am very bold. He is my favorite deity, and I derive a lot of courage. I just used to sit and meditate, and this gave me courage, and I didn't wilt. Nobody could threaten me to say and do this or that.
Well, yes, in today's day and age, if you say you're a Hanuman Bhakt, then you sing or chant the Hanuman Chalisa, it can land you in trouble, Mr. Raghavan. So, well, let's get back to this. Mr. Modi appeared before the SIT led by you. Now, what was about responses that convince you of his innocence?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Here again, as a professional police officer, I stayed away from that interrogation because as head of the SIT, I should not have been present. I deputed my DIG, a priceless officer called Ashok Malhotra. I asked him. He went there. Ironically, the whole interrogation took place in my chamber, and some eyebrows are raised as to why I wasn't present. It's a deliberate decision which was upheld by very many legal luminaries, because whatever Mr. Modi told us at that time would have been sullied if I had been present. They would have said that I just padded up things. So he came and we examined. I debriefed Malhotra. He told me nothing of that kind emerged, and that Mr. Modi went very clear. There was nothing against him which we could have pinned on to him. So I'm convinced.
You're convinced. But Mr. Raghavan, what cannot be denied is that more than 1,000 people died. Now, this was a terrible human tragedy. Thousands more were injured. There was terrible loss of life and livelihood. And the riots were widespread. Therefore, the question that one wants to ask, could this have been possible? Could the spread have been so widespread without clear complicity of some elements of the state or political hand?
I'm not competent to comment on that. You remember, we were given 9 cases by the Supreme Court of India. One was probably still under investigation. One failed in court. It was doomed to fail because it appeared the incident occurred late in the evening, a wayside village. We knew it was doomed to fail. We tried our best. We couldn't. In all the other 7 cases, we got enough evidence to prosecute people, and many were convicted. So I'm satisfied that we did justice in these 7 cases. 9 cases probably still in court. I am not competent. It's not proper on my part to mention that. So I'm convinced that there is no evidence whatsoever against Mr. Modi, and my conscience is clear. And so late in the day, when I've went a few months or years to reunite with the divine forces, Almighty, my conscience is clear. And I've said that in my autobiography called The Road Well Traveled. Westland Publishers did that.